Today's world seems to be filled with so much stress and uncertainty, which is leaving more and more people struggling with both depression and anxiety. Today's guest has helped many people overcome both of those. Dr. Gregg Jantz is a psychologist, best-selling author, and founder of the Center, a Place of Hope, one of the top facilities for treatment of depression in the United States. One of his latest books is called Soul Care. Dr. Jantz, welcome back to BCN.
Good to be with you for such an important topic.
Very much so. So many people around the world dealing with depression and anxiety. Our world has changed a lot over the past 30 years. Now, you believe we're living in a world of extremes. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, we do have extremes, and the World Health Organization says depression and anxiety now are topping the list. They're calling depression a disability. So when we talk about extremes, we're seeing such things as high levels of addiction, high levels of anxiety, and it's a real increase. In certain ages, we're seeing 12 to 17, especially high levels of depression, anxiety, and unfortunately, men ages about 50 and above is the second highest growing rate of depression and suicide.
So, what impact do all of the negative news and hateful social media comments have on our mental state?
Okay, let's talk about social media. We know that if you're already a little bit depressed, a little bit anxious, the more time that you engage and spend online and social media, your symptoms all go up. In other words, you're going to be more isolated, not closer to others, going to have more depression and anxiety symptoms, not less. So, social media, honestly, is not helping.
Yeah, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, you see a lot of Twitter trolls all the time, but it's interesting too. They're faceless, nameless. You know, they just create this profile and they become these keyboard warriors, blasting people all the time.
Well, we have something called digital courage.
Right.
People will do things online they won't do in person.
That's very true.
Yes.
Now, your book is about adopting some spiritual disciplines that will impact our physical and emotional well-being. What are some of those core disciplines?
Well, here's what we know. To live a life of recovery, Hal, we've got to develop these. I see it in the thousands of folks that we've worked with over the last 36 years. Here's what we know. You've got to do something to increase gratitude in your life. That's one of the disciplines. Gratitude. We know that gratitude, and when people come to us, they're depressed, they're anxious, as they move through the things that we're going to do with them, there's a threshold where they cross where we start to see like gratitude. They're humble. And with gratitude comes optimism. Optimism means I have a positive future. I can believe in my future. There's hope. So gratitude's really interesting because gratitude and anxiety, it's hard for those two to coexist. Think about it. Gratitude and depression, they just don't mix well together.
So is it really about counting your blessings, appreciating everything for what you have?
There is a counting your blessings, but gratitude is one of the components of hope. Now, hope comes when we have a plan. So if you're depressed or anxious, it's going to probably stay that way until we begin to build a plan. And then I can start to have optimism, some hope. So gratitude is very powerful. We know that gratitude, as well, with some of the studies, shows that it will affect our body chemistry. Gratitude, much like individuals who develop a real good sense of being a forgiving person, forgiveness changes our chemistries.
Now, you've personally adopted some of these disciplines. How well have they worked for you so far?
Well, I really know that something happened in my life, and I did have a period of some real struggle with depression in my own life, and we all maybe have gone through that. But I know for me, one of the keys were I had to be humbled, teachable, and have gratitude, and really put a focus on some key relationships in my life.
Now, you refer to prayer as a very important discipline as well. Why is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about prayer. People who spend time and prayer can take maybe some different forms. For some, it could be very specific, very structured. Others, it's having a prayerful spirit. I think prayer also increases gratitude. So, prayer, I'm going to just say, is communication with God and how we develop that. And for some, let's go, well, I don't really feel lovable. I don't feel like God loves me. Well, maybe what you're going to do is you're going to go out for that 20-minute walk. We're going to get some movement going. And how about walk in prayer, walk and talk to God, and just begin a conversation with God, developing a time, maybe a appropriate regular time where you go, okay, I'm just going to work on this in my life. See what happens.
So, how can we learn to stop talking at God and start maybe listening to God?
Isn't that interesting? A lot of folks that we work with, they're crying out to God, relieve me of this depression, take away this anxiety. And I understand the crying out. I understand the pain can be great. But one of the things you need to do is actually pray for wisdom. God, show me what I need to know. And Lord, help me listen to you. Where do I see you in this pain? So you've brought out how a really important point, listening to God. Wow. Getting through all that static.
Listen to that still small voice, be still and know that I'm God. Now, you're right that gratitude fosters optimism and optimism fuels hope. Yet today we're surrounded by so much negativity. How do we tune
Yeah.
that out?
Yeah, it's where we're going to put our point of focus. We live in a culture of a lot of just you can well, news can feel overwhelming, and even well, I don't even know what to believe, and we become overwhelmed because we're oversaturated. So, what are you saturating yourself with? I think there's a saturation of God's truth. Maybe when you go out for that walk, you're going to take a 3x5 card and maybe put down a verse. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. Okay, and I'm going to remember that. I'm going to put a different point of focus. That doesn't mean I'm going to put my head in the sand from what's going on in the world, but my point of focus will be different. Maybe my point of focus is on service to others and giving to others, even when I'm not doing so well.
Now, you write about confession, Dr. Jantz. Can you explain why confession is like an emotional and spiritual detox?
Yeah, emotional and spiritual detox, confession. Well, we know that one of the signs of emotional intelligence and being emotionally healthy is really a person who's not keeping a lot of secrets. And maybe there's shame, and maybe there's embarrassment, but we're at a place where we're not keeping a lot of toxic secrets. What I mean toxic is I'm isolated, I'm burdened by all these secrets. Maybe I'm involved with pornography, maybe I have secret drinking. So there's some secrets in my life that's actually making that depression and anxiety worse.
Now, you talk about how community is so vital to spiritual and emotional health, but on the flip side, isolation is one of the worst things we can do because no person is an island.
You know, here's what it's hard when you're depressed to say, okay, I'm going to reach out. It's hard to even think I'm going to be in relationship with anybody, but we do not recover in a vacuum. In other words, the more we isolate, the darker that it becomes. If you have anxiety, the more that you pull yourself away from people, the more anxiety symptoms you're going to have. It just works that way.
How does serving other people really help us in our own lives?
Yeah, serving others. Isn't that interesting? Well, if I serve others, it puts perspective on my own position, my own place. If I'm serving others, it also moves me out from being self-absorbed. Self-absorbed means I can't see beyond my own issues or my own suffering. And you know what? Something about serving others, reaching out, and really, I call it love and acceptance of others. It helps you give that to yourself as well.
Now, you're right that unforgiveness erodes the soul. It can damage our psyche and weaken our immune system. Why is forgiveness so hard for so many of us?
Forgiveness, because it's confusing. How can I forgive somebody who's maybe abused me? How can I forgive myself for all the mistakes I made? Because forgiveness for some is, well, then I'm saying it's okay. Well, no, we're not saying it's okay. For some, forgiveness is excusing. Forgiveness is really about setting ourselves free, and we've learned from whatever event it is, it's also setting um, a freedom inside that says, if I'm an initiator of forgiveness, I've allowed new peace to come in. If I don't forgive, I'm going to have a lack of peace and I'm not going to trust. And you say, well, I can't trust others. Not anymore. But unforgiveness keeps us from developing close relationships. It robs us of intimacy.
Let's talk a bit more about peace and how important that is to our physical, emotional, and mental well being.
Yeah, peace comes when I become an initiator of forgiveness. Peace comes when I'm willing to reach out to others. Peace, and you know what? We've heard it said, but wow, nothing's more valuable than having peace of mind. Well, unforgiveness robs us of peace of mind. Unforgiveness affects our sleep. So I just want to, I don't say it's easy, but let's practice and let's become an initiator of forgiveness. Be the first one to initiate forgiveness. This is something I've had to work on, and I know at times it doesn't seem fair, but if we go, well, it's not fair what they did to me. Well, you're right. But what purpose is it going to serve keeping you sick and in bondage to what somebody else did?
So, how do negative emotions really sap our mental and physical strength?
Negative emotions not only are an emotional drain, but negative emotions are really something that comes at a time in our lives where it'll paralyze us and we won't be able to deal with anger. We will not be able to deal with fear in our lives and guilt. So think of those as the three deadly emotions: anger, fear, and guilt. You're not going to be able to manage those in your life. You're going to get more of them.
Is it important maybe sometimes we have to consider cutting some toxic people out of our lives?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. There are people who are toxic in our lives. There are people who could be emotionally abusive. There are people that really they may be misusing you and they're oppressive. So I think there's a distance ourselves, but at times there's a decision that makes, I can no longer be in relationship with this person because it's so unhealthy.
What happens if it's a very close relative, like maybe mother or father? you know, what do you do in
Oh,
that
and
instance?
okay, so maybe that's a season. Maybe there's a season where I'm pulling back some so that I can get healthier, so that I can get stronger in order to deal with that situation. Maybe I need to pull back in order to even forgive them. Maybe I need to, when I deal with them, never be alone. Maybe I need to put some safe parameters in place. You're right. There are people that, oh no, it's my relative. I'm going to see them. And all of a sudden you're feeling anxious, right? And you go, oh no, I'm already having a panic attack because I'm going to have to see so and so. And that's something we need to look at and go, okay, what's going on inside you? Have you not forgiven? Now, forgiveness doesn't imply that I have to be in relationship with them.
Let's talk about one of my favorite pastimes, laughter. Why is laughter so important to our overall well being?
Laughter, and we put a little chapter of laughter in this little soul care book. And the reason why is laughter is one of the keys that keeps perspective in our life. It affects our body chemistry, and laughter can be bonding. When I laugh and share times of somebody in a humorous way, it can be bonding and it can actually deepen that relationship. I think a lot of times marriages, and we need to laugh more with our spouses. We get into routines and laughter increases joy, and we could use a little more joy. So let's laugh. It's okay.
Yeah, laughter is also good for burning a few calories. Now, what do you hope readers will take away from reading your book, Soul Care?
Oh, perspective. I hope that people get a sense of, okay, I can practice these. These aren't that hard to do. I think it's a time to make a decision to go, you know what? I want to be emotionally healthy. And I want to understand that my soul and my spirit are such an important part of my long-term emotional wellness.
Dr. Gregg Jantz is the author of Soul Care. Thanks a lot for joining me today from Washington State.
Good to be with you.